Good day, ladies and gents. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more Warpforge. And today we're going to be doing yet another tier list. So it's been a while since I have done my Warlord tier list. So I am going to be doing another one. And the season is about to end, and I think it's kind of clear already which Warlords are the top dogs of the ladder, let's say like that, and which are the ones that are good. But it might be unclear for some of the less popular warlords how worth they are playing and how good they can be. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So don't forget that at the end of the day, despite the fact that I'm speaking from experience, this is still my personal opinion, so you might disagree. But if you do disagree, please write in the comments why you disagree and what would you change in the tier list. Now keep in mind that even though the season is ending, probably things are going to be the same for a week or a little more, because as you guys know, the patch usually comes at like 1 week into the season, so this tier list might still be very useful for you guys. So we're going to rank by absolute best, which is going to be the absolute best warlords, obviously, the strongest ones. The very good ones, which are also very strong and easily capable of competing in the top ranks. All right is going to be warlords basically that are good, but they're not that good. So you really need to work to get a win with them. And even in that case, sometimes you might not, because some warlords are just basically stronger, but they're still pretty good and they're still easy to run in top 50. Now, weak are already going to be underwhelming warlords that feel weaker and really need some help currently because, well, you know, they're just underwhelming. They just don't have what it takes to compete. And the trash are going to be the ones that are going to be in the absolute worst spot. So without further ado, let's begin. And we're starting off with Marneus Calgar of the Ultramarines, and it's actually pretty funny because he is the absolute best. And I would even say that he also has the potential to be the best warlord. However, that spot is still competed by a couple, but Marneus Calgar currently is extremely powerful. The buffs to the Ultramarines have really helped him, because he is now, once again, surprise, surprise, played as aggro using Avenging Zeal and some of his buffed cards. And Marneus Calgar, for the most cases, is able to end games very soon through his pressure. So he's just able to out-control the board in the early game, just swarm and just beat you up very easily. If his game goes well, he can finish the game like, I don't know, turn 5 or turn 6. So he's quite powerful. Now, not quite as powerful as he used to be in November. So if anybody thinks that he's as overpowered as he used to be, no, he's not even close. He can be dealt with. Usually he can be dealt with if his early pressure fails, which can for sure happen. So mostly if you want to succeed at this guy, you want to run a low curve deck, mostly with a lot of low drops, a lot of aggro, but of course you can still lose, especially when you play against some other contenders of the best spot that we have here. So overall, I think he's a very, very strong warlord currently. And, you know, not only because of the aggro and the buffs, he's got a card draw, very simple and effective ability, and he also has 40 HP, so that really also helps. Now, Varro Tigurius, honestly speaking, I think he's all right. I wouldn't say he could go in very good, because there are some warlords that are just better than him. However, he is underrated in terms of people calling him weak. He is not. I played quite a few games with him in top 50, and he's pretty good. You just probably have to play him as more of a vehicle deck. So he's pretty good when playing the vehicle deck, because he has more consistency than Calgar, because he always draws the stratagems, which basically means that whenever you're drawing the stratagem, there's a big chance that you're going to get your battlefield supremacy, your armored support on time, your invulnerable on time. So when you're building a vehicle build, you can definitely go for Varro over Calgar, but when you're playing an aggro build, for sure you prefer to be Calgar. Now the next one is Uriel Ventress. Now Uriel Ventress has a problem. He's also all right, for sure. His basically his rank is, I think, going to increase even more as sisters become popular, because he's certainly very good against sisters because he can stop their prayers with his ability, permanently basically denying them faith. And he can be played aggro as well. It's just that ever since Uriel has lost his extra card, he is no longer as viable as Calgar to be played as aggro. Because currently he's just a 35 HP Calgar without a card draw. He does have that nice damage pressure. It's very useful for certain situations, but it's just not enough. When he used to have that extra card, he was certainly the better Warlord compared to Calgar, but currently this is the case. I think if Uriel Ventress perhaps had his extra card, he would have been the aggro warlord, and Calgar would go more for like late game with heavier troops. But now that crown is for Calgar, so Uriel will still sit at all right, because Ultramarines, as I said, are still pretty good. You can still play him to a good effect, and he's certainly good in certain matchups. He's also pretty good against Necrons for destroying remnants, so he's going to be good against Zandrek. So overall, pretty good as well. Now, on to the orcs. Ghazghkull Thraka. Now, Ghazghkull Thraka has been underplayed lately, and I think I'm not sure where to put him. I'm not sure whether to put him in all right or very good, because currently I think I would still put him in all right, but on top of the all right tier. Now, let me tell you why I think that is the case. So a few things changed, and it's not because of the nerfs to the orcs specifically. I think the main problem for Ghazghkull right now is that Ghazghkull is playing for armor control, right? So he gets armor, he plays for control, he mostly plays for late game. And that build is almost always going to lose to Imotech the Stormlord, because Imotech is extremely good against Ghazghkull. He used to already have a winning matchup against control Ghazghkull even before the Necron buffs, and now he's absolutely going to annihilate him. So I think that pushes down Ghazghkull because he just has a hard counter to him running around on the ladder. So that's what he puts him in all right. I think if you would remove Imotech, he would definitely go up to very good. It's just that I think he's just not that suited to deal with this threat. When Tau were the meta, he was certainly a lot better. So I would put Ghazghkull in all right. I just think he's like really good, but not the absolute best in the orcs for sure. That title is going to go to Warboss Gorgfang, which I'm going to put in very good. He cannot go in absolute best for a couple of reasons. First of all, once again, Necrons are not that of a good matchup, but unlike Ghazghkull, he could actually play super aggro, and he has a higher chance of winning that. Against Calgar, he is not that good because Calgar is going to out aggro him, but once again, he doesn't have like a direct losing matchup, let's say like that. He is a very strong aggro warlord, and if he gets like Makari early, he deals 5 damage per turn. So in a lot of cases, he's just going to beat you down. His main problem is that he is not that consistent, see what I mean? So he's not always going to get that golden hand, he's not always going to have a good opening, but nevertheless, his ability is absolutely stupid, so he definitely goes into very good. Now, unfortunately, as far as I really don't want to be doing this, but he goes into trash. Now, Boss Zagstruk is absolute crap. Now, let me tell you what the problem with this is. You never want to play Boss Zagstruk when Gorgfang exists. So, let's compare. Boss Zagstruk's ability is to gain +1 attack and armor during that turn and fly, while Gorgfang gains +2 attack and stuns the opponent. The only scenario where Boss Zagstruk is better than Warboss Gorgfang is when you're dealing with Tau drones. That's the only scenario where this guy is going to be better. And Tau drone spam isn't that active anymore. It doesn't happen a lot. And even when the Tau were meta, this guy was still not played over Gorgfang. The other reason is if you ever face a Gorgfang mirror, you automatically lose the game, because Gorgfang is going to stun lock you and you basically play without a warlord power. So this guy, unfortunately, super underwhelming. I think he needs something to give him an identity, maybe like some buff to Storm Boys, or maybe an ability to give something to his Storm Boys, or permanent buff there. I don't know really, but they really need to give him an ability like a special card or a passive, something basically that is going to push him up, because currently Warboss Gorgfang is just a better Zagstruk. With Grukk, well, Grukk is as always, I think, alright. Grukk is always good because his ability is just good, the card draw. He's not, once again, as good as Warboss Gorgfang because his main playstyle used to be aggro. So I think the problem with him currently is that you have to play him on vehicle orcs, which can definitely work, or you can still play him on aggro orcs, which can also definitely work, or control orcs. It's just that Ghazghkull is going to do it a little bit better because Ghazghkull has armor, Ghazghkull has more HP, he can summon grots, so he is certainly better than Grukk. If I were to put it like this, maybe it would go like this. This is how I would put it. I think Ghazghkull is better than Tigurius, who is better than Grukk, who is better than Uriel. So this is how I feel currently about the placement of orcs. They're still pretty good. They're still orcs. They still have really good cards. To be honest, the reason why some of them are so high tier is because orcs just have good cards. Unfortunately, it's not enough to help Zagstruk, though. I think he's just in a very bad situation. The only situation where he could be interesting is when you play Orbital Bombardment and like play very aggro, but once again, Gorgfang does that better. Now then, on to the Eldar. And Eldar, honestly, are a pretty interesting bunch. Iliak Zephyrblade, I would definitely place here. I think he's better than Varro Tigurius. Not as good as Ghazghkull, though. Because Eldar are pretty good overall. They have a nice package. They have like nice amount of cards. The problem with them is that not nice amount of cards, nice amount of good cards. It's just that like Eldar have a very predefined set of very good cards that they always have to play in almost every deck, which kind of makes them very boring and generic. And it's all about which warlord is going to utilize those cards the best. Now, considering Iliak does have an ability to help him play aggro, he definitely goes into all right. He can still win a lot of games. He's very annoying to deal with. Let's just say whenever you face Iliak, you never feel comfortable because you know that you are going to have to deal with a lot of his shenanigans. So that really does put him in an all right tier for me. Kael Talk, I think, is on a weaker side. He's just very interesting. I love this Warlord. I think he's very cool. He's a very good idea. He's like very nice control, but there's always something missing in terms of him, because if you play for late game, Necrons are usually outscaling you, Chaos is outscaling you, Orcs are outscaling you. So it's very difficult to play that late game Eldar currently, and some of their late game cards are just not good. Maybe perhaps when they receive the Ultramarine and Necron treatment and they get their vanilla cards reworked, perhaps we will see more of Kael Talk, which I'm definitely looking forward to, but currently he's like a little bit slow. Now, Mreal Galin is gonna go on top of the very good tier. Get out of there, Gorgfang. I think she's definitely better than Gorgfang, and she's almost absolute best, but not exactly, because I just think that once again the ones that absolute best are a little bit unfair currently. They have a little bit of a strong advantage, but you know, she's just really good. She has the tempo, she summons the units, so she can get the spirit stones as well. She's just Iliak with a better ability and less HP, because her ability to just summon those units always let her maintain the tempo, because Eldar also have a lot of flank units, and she always has the board swarmed, and you know, she always manages to put a lot of pressure on you. The only situation where she kind of gets crapped on is when she runs out of cards, or you drop a very big armored unit in the early game and she kind of cannot deal with it. That can happen. But overall, she's pretty consistent, she's pretty strong, and has remained the best Eldar warlord like since forever. So she will still go into very good tier. Imotech is certainly going to the absolute best, so he is back. So when I look at this tier list, honestly, it kind of reminds me of November, because it was when Marneus Calgar and Imotech were on top of the ladder. So Imotech currently received a couple of buffs. I think the most crucial one was to the Immortal Pride, because Immortal Pride really made him way more powerful, because now he can actually play the tanky Imotech and he can be good, because when he plays that armor, he becomes an orc, but way bigger sustainability and way stronger late game. So if he does manage to put that on early, Calgar is crushed. I think I would even put him. I don't know. I'm gonna tell you what I think about the um, thing here. You know, the guys that are gonna be on top are really difficult to scale, like who's better and who's worse. So Imotech also did get his Lich Guard buffed. They got the attack bonus, which is perfect, which is really, really good. And the Psychomancers also got a remnant, and there were like some small buffs here and there, which I think really did make this faction way, way stronger than it used to be. Now it can be played to high effect once again, and they're really powerful. You know, it's just the old Imotech basically back with some new tools. So, as always, he remains the strongest Necron Warlord for sure. Orikan the Diviner, on the other hand, you know what? The problem with this guy is that I would put him in weak, but I have to put him in alright simply because Scarabs still exist, right? So there is still an option to play this guy for Scarabs, even though it's slower than it used to be. He can still fill the board with them, and if you don't have an answer, you just lose. That's how he pretty much works. So it's a very boring and stupid warlord, to be honest, because the archetype that it is attached with is pretty bad. I think his ability overall is interesting, but with Necron's lack of card draw, it's not that impactful. It's only good if you play Scarabs. So, and since Scarabs are good, he still needs to go into alright. So that's pretty much what it is. I do hope that at some time he either gets a passive or he gets like a special card so that he's playable, because that Scarab archetype is just stupid in my opinion, and it's not consistent because there are warlords that can easily deal with that, so he cannot go higher than all right, in my opinion. Plus there are now warlords that have armor, and Scarab Explosion no longer deals a lot of damage because of that. Now, Nemesaur, you guys are probably expecting I'll put here or here, but I gotta disappoint you guys. I'm putting Nemesaur somewhere in the middle of all right. He's not that good. A lot of people have been saying that he's like, oh, he's so strong right now, and no, he's not. The problem with this is, guys, if you play this guy on higher ranks, and if you get matched up with the Ultramarines, you pretty much have lost, because this guy is, even though he's good, he has nice tempo, he summons those like Necron warriors and so on. It's very easy to seize tempo back from him. Like what you really need is just to take out a remnant and drop a Sternguard veteran, and he's already in problems, right? Because then he has to be the one answering, and as soon as he goes into being the one answering, he loses tempo. And regaining tempo as Necrons is not easy unless you're using stuff like Tomb World, stuff like Hexmark into Curse of the Pharaoh, and all of those things are good on Imotech. Like Tomb World, even though you can play it on Zandrek, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna summon like 8 Necron warriors? It's not that good, right? That's one AoE and they're gone. Plus, I think what he lacks currently is a finisher. He needs something if you remember, there used to be the Annihilation command, the old one, which was a very good finisher for this and the Scarab decks. And now that that is gone, this guy really doesn't have a finisher. He really has to rely on the Triarch Stalkers, and on top of that, he has another problem with that remnant. The remnants don't disappear ability. He often gets his board very clogged, and he's not able to play more Necron warriors. So I've had this problem when playing this guy. Nevertheless, he's still pretty good. He can still play on tempo. Resurrection Orb can really still help him win the game directly. So there are a couple of very interesting things that this guy can still pull. The Chronomancer works pretty good on him, so he's definitely not a bad warlord. It's just that he's not as good at that as a lot of people think that he is. If that was the case, there would be a whole lot more of these guys on the ladder, which is not the case. All right, now let us move to Chaos. And Abaddon, honestly speaking, I think he is a warlord that is slept on. I just don't think he's perhaps as good as the top 3, but he is definitely on top of the very good tier. The thing with Abaddon is that a lot of people will say, oh, you press one button with Black Crusade and you win. I think that Abaddon is really not about Black Crusade. I think he's more about the uh, control that he can take from you during his 6 or 5 energy power spikes, like when he plays Drachnian, or when he plays the Venom Crawler, or the Harbinger of Decay, or when he plays the Hellbrute, right? So you're not really that dependent on your Black Crusade. I think what makes Abaddon really that strong is that once you leave one unit for Chaos on the board, they become obscenely powerful. Currently, the problem with Abaddon, I think that he takes way more effort to win than the other guys that are gonna be on the top tier. I think, at least. Not to say that you should not know how to play the others, but I think Abaddon is a little bit more complicated to get to work. But nevertheless, I still think that he's one of the best warlords currently, and he's just that powerful because his HP plus his ability to constantly keep giving himself HP, also the flexibility to use it as a dark pact otherwise, is just really, really good. Galeron is weak. Now, Galeron, a lot of people say that he's not, weak, that he's all right and maybe he's good. No, he's not. The problem with Galeron is that his ability, even though very good and interesting, it's inherently an anti-Tau ability. Something that is really going to help you gain cards when fighting the Tau, right? Because they drop a drone, you take it out. So it was there to help Chaos deal with the drones. But the problem is that Abaddon still does everything he does, but better. But on top of that, he has a problem. He has 0 Dark Pact synergy. And currently, not playing Chaos as a Dark Pact faction is a little bit weird and awkward because that's their most powerful mechanic, and currently they still don't have the means to play otherwise. So Galeron is just kind of knocked down there because I think I just think that the problem with this guy is that he can't really do anything meaningful. The only time that his ability is like that good is either against like Tau, for example, or when he has a board and he can use that that vulnerability to permanently damage your, like, not permanently, sorry, to give your warlord a lot of damage, which is going to be rare. Now you can also say, but he can take out 3 HP units with it. Yes, but at the cost of his own HP, which is also 35. Compared it to Abaddon, who has 40 HP, and he can keep giving himself HP whenever he wants. I think an interesting change for this guy would be, once again, a special passive or a special card, or give him an alternative like Abaddon, either like give vulnerability to your enemy or give something to your ally, right? So that could also work. I think, once again, the problem is that he just does not have any Dark Pact synergy, and Chaos do not have any different playstyles currently. Harken, on the other hand, is going to go into alright for sure. I'm going to put him below Uriel, I guess. Harken suffers from a similar problem as every other Chaos Warlord, which is the vast inferiority to Abaddon. Abaddon is just better. It's always that case. So, your Warlord is good, but Abaddon is just better, right? That doesn't mean that we should nerf Abaddon. No, it means that we need to either give Chaos a different playstyle or give these warlords more identity. Honestly speaking, Harken has been doing better though. Reason for that being with the 4 energy card that they added the Despoilers to Chaos, that gives vulnerable to everything that the enemy puts down, is pretty good. That really synergizes really well with Harken, because if you play that, every time this guy pulls blast, like, everything takes extra damage except the warlord, so that is really, really strong. So there's some synergy there. So I think it's a good start to get Harken to work. So yeah, he's currently all right for sure. He's nice, but not as good as Abaddon. Sylar is gonna go actually to where? Where is he gonna go? I think he's still gonna go weak, but he's gonna be better than these guys. Problem with Hexcorn is that in some of your games, you're just gonna absolutely stomp the enemy, because his ability to give +2 to everything is basically on Vaz ability to give +2 ranged, but for melee. It's just that you never know which ability you're getting. So, like, if you roll good abilities, this guy can be better than Abaddon in some scenarios. But if you roll bad, he can be absolute trash. So I think the problem that this guy currently is having is that, once again, his RNG ability is screwing him up really badly. But at the same time, if they made his ability non-RNG, well, in that case, he would be overpowered, because to choose Diabolic Strength and then use it on Will is just disgusting. I think that this guy needs to be reworked. His ability just needs to change. Overall, is what I think. Or the chaos spells have to change a little bit, or I don't know. I'll let EG do that part for themselves. Currently, I have no exact ideas how this could change. But yeah, he's a little weak. So if you are a loyal player of Caleron or Sylar, you could definitely make it work, but you could feel that they are weaker than the others. And it's a shame too. Galeron looks so cool and has cool voice lines. Same with Sylar, has very cool voice lines. Now let's move on to the Tyranids. And there's our third absolute best warlord. And you guys might have noticed that Swarmlord has been becoming more and more popular. I think people are slowly realizing that this guy is extremely powerful. The reason why this guy is extremely powerful is basically three reasons that have three things that have happened. You might be surprised because would say like, well, but Ravenous Hunter was nerfed and Broodlord was nerfed. Who cares? Instead, they got the gargoyles. On top of the gargoyles, they got hardened biology, and two of them, their worst enemies, which were the Tau and the Orcs, are not that popular anymore. So that absolutely puts Swarmlord in the higher spots, because that new flank unit, the Gargoyle, is super. The hardened biology just wins games, and they were already as strong as they were, and now they are even stronger. He can still pull the Ravenous Hunter combo. He can still one-shot you. He can still shit on Imotech, basically. So I would say it's a very interesting thing here. I think Swarmlord beats Calgar, Calgar beats Imotech, and Imotech beats... Swarmlord beats Imotech, Imotech beats Calgar, Calgar beats Swarmlord. I think that's kind of how it works. Not always, of course. You can still beat a Calgar, you can still lose to an Imotech, but I don't know, from like, let's say 100 games that I played with this guy, it seemed that Imotechs were way easier than Calgars usually, though both of the matchups are certainly winnable. So definitely one of the absolute best warlords there. For the absolute best, just don't keep in mind what is the like who's first, who's second, and who's the third. Was the sequence. All of them are just good. Terror of Vandergast. Terror of Vandergast used to be trash, but I think I would now put this guy into solid alright tier. I would even put him somewhere here. I think he's pretty good currently. I think what did change for the Tyranids also benefited him, but on top of benefiting him, by I mean the gargoyles, I think people really caught on to how you're supposed to play this guy. He can play with Ripper Swarms. He basically swarms the board and goes face for like crazy damage. He can also take out a lot of troops that have 4 HP, so his range is very good, his attack range, so he can definitely keep the tempo going. Problem with him is that, once again, he has pretty low HP for such an aggro warlord, and on top of that, he is dependent on luck more than Swarmlord, because he needs to draw the correct cards and then beat you down. If he doesn't draw the correct cards, he can still win, but it's going to be hard. While Swarmlord can certainly make everything that he has in his deck work. Like, imagine on Terror of Vandergast, you just prefer to get some things over the others. Same with the Swarmlord, but no matter what you get with the Swarmlord, unless your hand is only full of tactics, you're good. And with this guy, Ravenous Hunter is really going to decide a lot more than for Swarmlord, for example. You need the Ripper Swarms in the correct time, so I think he's a little bit inconsistent. I may be wrong, but that's how I feel. Neurothrope, I'm actually going to put in on top of the alright tier. Maybe I'm a little biased with this, but I have been doing really, really well with this guy. I think his main issue is that he's a little slow, and there's Ultramarines basically right now being very aggro, but he's good in control matchups. He's good against the Orcs, surprisingly. Which Tyranids are usually not because of infestation nodes and stuff like that. He is certainly slept on, in my opinion, but he definitely doesn't go into very good or absolute best. I just think that after Swarmlord, he would probably be the best Tyranid warlord. He's like pure control, though. You don't want to play this guy on aggro. There's a lot of fun that you can have with him. He can keep giving himself HP, so he has survivability. He has good synergy with Norn emissaries. So yeah, pretty interesting Warlord right there. Tervigon, I would put in weak, but he's better than everybody else. Actually, I would put Kael Talk higher than the Chaos ones for sure. Yeah. Or maybe not. Maybe like this? Yeah, something like this probably. I think, who's worse, Galaron or Sylar? I think Sylar is actually better than Galaron. So, Tervigon is good. He can still do what he used to do. He can still spam those disgusting units that he had, but he received heavy nerfs because his ability now costs 1, and even though the next troop costs like 1 less, it really does hinder some of his progress. For example, you can't play biomorphologies and like a unit spawn in 1 turn, for example. It kind of slows you down. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention, the biomorphologies being 2 energy is also a big deal. Yeah, and they get less swarm as well, and it's hard to keep tempo with this guy. So I think they tuned him down quite a bit. Maybe it was not necessary to make his ability 1. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure how to feel about this. I think maybe I'm underestimating Tervigon a little bit here, but once again, whenever I face my opponents, the other Tyranid warlords always seem to be more trouble than Tervigon. I think that they just slowed him down a little bit too much. Maybe he needs land, but he's a scary warlord. When he was buffed, he was on top of the ladder, so it's very hard to really decide where he goes currently. Definitely not trash, maybe on top of the weak tier, but still better than these guys, I think, because she still has the ability to just spam that board and build some crazy strong troops. Now we're at the Tau, and Shadowsun, honestly speaking, I'm pretty stuck between putting Shadowsun at the bottom of the very good tier or on the alright tier. I think I'm going to put her in the bottom of the very good tier. I think this is a warlord that is slept on very, very, very heavily currently. That's because people were used to playing Onva and Omezos, and that's pretty much like that's pretty much what people were doing. And now, since they have both received nerfs, Shadowsun gets a time to shine because battle suits have not been nerfed that much. Sure, Crisis as well as the Broadside received a little nerfs, but you still have Onshi, you still have your Dynamic Offensive, you still have the Riptide battle suits. So I think a good Shadowsun deck can still do pretty well. You just have to play it a little bit differently. You just have to play it on aggro. You need some finishers like Priority Target or Storm of Fire. So I think she's really, really good. I think this is an underestimated warlord because whatever was her strength still remains as her strength. A lot of people are saying that, well, yeah, but if you choose the offensive ability, she becomes useless because she cannot put the marker light. Oh, come on, man. Are you serious? She can always just get +1 attack with it, and that's it. In a lot of cases, when I played with this, the enemy playing camouflage doesn't really come into play at all. And don't forget, the camouflage also works both ways. Good luck dealing with the Riptide battlesuit once it's camouflaged, especially if it comes out with flank. So yeah, I think that she's pretty good, just on the bottom of the very good tier. Onva, I'm not really that sure where to put. I think he goes into trash. He's better than Zagstruk for sure. It's just that he's now too slow. His ability, which was to generate the stuff that he did, have been nerfed like quite heavily. Because now he cannot give a shield on the turn he plays it. He cannot give the armor on the turn he plays it, because everything now costs too much. I think when they nerfed the Tau, it was not that necessary to change Onva like that, because now he's kind of unplayable. I think what the problem was that Onva should have stayed as he was. Maybe the drone nerf and the nerfs and this stuff was enough, because now that the experimental drones as well as the savior protocols are nerfed, the Tau's tempo has been dropped quite a bit, especially considering the Piranha is also nerfed. I think Onva himself, like currently, I think he did not need those nerfs himself. I think the nerf to the Tau was absolutely enough, considering also there are other warlords now rising that can deal with them pretty well. So I don't know. Perhaps it was a good change, perhaps not, but fact is this warlord is currently trash. Omezos, on the other hand, he can still go into alright tier. He's still very annoying. I would put him somewhere, I don't know where to put him actually. I think maybe somewhere here. Omezos is like somewhere in the middle. He can still be very, very annoying with his drones. He still has some good matchups. He's all right. It's just that it's much more difficult to get this guy to work than it used to be, because currently you need way more tempo than you used to, because before this it was basically a face roll. You just spam like drones. He can still be very scary, but now he needs now he actually needs to work to get himself to work. So I think that's where Omezos currently stands. That's I think that maybe he's even weak. I don't know, but I've been facing a lot of them and they seemed all right, just much weaker than what they used to be. Now for the sisters. Probably the one that you've all been waiting for. I think Morvenn Vahl would go at the bottom of alright tier. Now, she's, you guys know that sisters are kind of weak currently, but Morvenn Vahl is actually the warlord that can actually work. Mostly because that extra damage is good, extra HP is good, ability to take out 3 HP units is good, and she has more... she's got more synergy with Penitence than any of the other sisters warlords. So she definitely is all right, but at the bottom, she's not certainly as good as some of the other guys. But she can definitely work. I think she's all right. It's just that once again, sisters are currently suffering from having a lot of trashy units, as well as the difficulty to gain faith, while stuff also costing a lot of faith. But the reason why it's affecting Morvenn Vahl the least is because she is a penitence-based warlord rather than a prayer one. She still needs her prayers, of course, but for the most part, she's the one that can cheat out the weakness the most. With Judas and Erika, it's a little bit different. Erika is going to go into weak. The problem with Erika currently actually is the offense card of the Sisters of Battle, and that's why Judith also is going to go into trash. I think it's still better than these guys, but you know, here's the thing. Judith's ability is to summon a troop which is a 1/3, so her whole point is that she summons 1/3s and then she's gonna pray, that unit's gonna pray, so she's going to be gaining faith based on that. Now, suddenly your opponent decides to play the offense card, Raging Storm, and your units are now at 2 HP, and by the way, her ability is to heal, unlike Erika's, which is to give HP, so she can't even heal those units that started at 2 HP instead of 3. And that makes it so easy for the opponent to just take it out. It just becomes a huge tempo loss because she's basically at that point just summoning a grot. But unlike Ghazghkull, she has trash cards compared to him and less HP. So yeah, I think currently she has that problem. With Erika, it's a little bit better because her ability is to directly give HP to others, and she can also not only others herself as well, and she also has a scaling ability, which is really good. But once again, she suffers from the same thing. Like if you use the offense card, she's basically wasting her pray ability to just give +1 HP to just bring up the units to their original HP, right? So the problem there, once again, is that her whole ability is kind of scrapped because of that offense card. I think, yeah, sisters do have some issues. Their pray's a little difficult. The faith costs are too high. But one of the main issues, I think, is the offense card, which makes 2 of the warlords kind of irrelevant because their abilities are pretty much countered by 1 offense card, right? And then you're going to say, yeah, but it also works on the opponent. It doesn't matter because you're the one who wants to survive and pray and get faith, right? You're the one who plays on the defensive, so it benefits them way more than it benefits you. Unless you're Morvenn Vahl, in that case, you mostly don't care, but you know. But even with Morvenn Vahl, it's still bad because maybe I want to play a Preacher and suddenly the 2/3 Preacher becomes a 2/2. It was already bad enough the 3 damage or ping warlords can take it out. Now everybody can take it out. So I think that's one of their main problems currently. So, guys, this is the tier list. This is what I think about the current meta. Tell me what you agree on, tell me what you disagree on, and yeah, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Teacher out.